An emergency episode, as basically everything that we said about Sandy Brondello on yesterday's episode is out the window. New York Liberty have announced that they will not retain Sandy. What comes next?
Gotta get up, gotta get up,
gotta get up. Hey, women's basketball fans, welcome to Gotta Get Up, a podcast for New York Liberty fans, brought to you by Rosie Media and hosted by Erica L. Ayala. Brian, listen, I'm having an early lunch. Gotta take a sip of my juice here because the news has come down. Sandy Brondello not retained.
Yep.
By the New York Liberty. What are your first thoughts and reactions?
My initial thought is surprise. I feel like whenever you have a disappointing year, especially after a championship, usually you get 2 seasons to figure it out. So the first year is like, okay, it didn't go well. We'll retool, we'll retinker, and then we'll come back at it the next year. And then if the struggle happens again in year 2, that's where you're like, okay, we got to change up. And I find the move so fascinating because we're doing it on the heels of what could be an entirely new basketball landscape if and when the WNBA is back in 2026. We're subtracting, we talked about it last night, we're subtracting, at least they're subtracting, because they don't sign my checks. So they're subtracting 2 players off the roster via the expansion draft, no likelihood. You have the natural attrition of free agency that comes in whenever that goes into effect this winter or spring. So it's a lot of transition all happening at once. And you'd think in theory, you'd want the head coach position to be stable. So that way players know what they're walking into as far as like offensive strategy, offensive system, things like that. So that caught me by surprise. I guess if I wanted to sort of like, cause I've been trying to sort of like piecemeal the logic of the decision and trying to sort of put context clues together. I couldn't find the audio online, but during media day, Erica, we were there when Jonathan Kolb was talking. He was mentioning a lot about how on offense his sort of philosophy is he wants more rim attempts, more shots at the rim, so like more. I guess not like post ups per se, but just like more like utilizing the best aspects of offense on the court via shots at the rim and 3-pointers. And I was looking it up earlier. I think we even hit on it last night. The Liberty were second in percentage as far as like makes inside their restricted area, but only 11th in attempts. Now, I wonder if Kolb sees that as a coaching, you're not emphasizing this enough, like the flow of offense, the quality of shot attempts we're getting. I wonder if he interpreted that as we're not doing what we need to do to sort of really get the most out of this roster. I would posit his answer is yes to that, because I think that's the sort of like I guess that would be that's the sort of like fundamental difference he sees between how Sandy was executing their agreed upon strategy for this season. So I'm guessing that might have been it, because I don't think she lost the locker room as far as I can tell. I'm around them all the time. Like I see people like, oh, she lost the locker room. I'm like, no, she didn't. Like you're not like actually there talking to people, so you wouldn't know. Like we're all of us who were there to a person would be like, she had the locker room, like she was liked by the players. Like it seemed like it fit. Yeah.
Yeah. To the point where when Stewie was asked, she was like, her first response was, what the fuck? What the fuck? And then she said, we have Sandy's back. Apparently we did not extend beyond the roster. Yeah. Hi, Damien. What you guys have to say now? It's a bad move. It's a bad move, Damien. So congratulations on being right about the wrong move. This is a terrible move for the New York Liberty. Here we go. This is what I have to say, Damien. So, make sure you turn up the mic, you turn up your audio and you hear me clearly. Because, I want to make sure we're good here. Bad move. Nobody who's available better. Noel Quinn is not the answer. Now you have a situation where Becky Hammon, I don't think she'll be available. I mean, maybe if the Aces lose to Indiana, is she available? Maybe. I still think that would be a blunder for Vegas, but I'd take Becky Hammon, but she's not available right now, so that's not an answer. Noel Quinn, Mr. Mr. I don't like Sandy's rotations, but you want Noel Quinn as your head coach? Okay, good luck with that. Then you have Cheryl Reeve. Who from New York wants Reeve coming here?
Not New Jersey, Cheryl.
2 seasons separated from her mess and her nonsense. We already have people on Black Rosie Media talking about that this was a sham of a championship. Well, sucks to be you, Minnesota, because the ring is real. So the ring and the banner are real. And you know what? It wasn't your year. Literally, it was an even year. So don't get mad at Liberty. Get mad that y'all tried to mess around and get a championship in an even year and not an odd year. Cheryl Reeve isn't available. Also, no longer the head coach of USA Basketball, which I think is very interesting, and I can't wait to hear more about that. Then you have Nate Tibbetts, I thought really put on a great performance against Sandy Brondello. Some people saying, that might have been the reason. Listen, good coaches are going to get got, and then they go and get folks too. Nate Tibbetts showed I had to be like, oh, dang, I guess, I was a little wrong about girl dad.
Respect the girl dad.
Respect the girl dad. I think he's done a phenomenal job, and he's still got a lot of work to do because who's exposing him right now, at least through one game. Blazer Cheryl Reeve. Blazer wearing
very own.
That's it. So, who else? And I shared this in our Slack channel, so I'm going to share it here. But let's just run through Megan Hall, who is also my birthday twin. We have the same exact birthday, which is awesome. May 8th is an awesome day. But this is a list that Megan Hall put together. I have the link here. And let me actually pop this on the screen, Brian, because I thought there were some interesting names on here. But my question still is, this is a team that was trying to defend a title. So now you have a situation where you get rid of your head coach. What is realistic here? And Sandy's been down this road before. You get rid of a coach just to bring in someone that then is going to have you, maybe in the playoffs again?
Yeah.
Are you okay to not be in the playoffs next season because you're bringing in a brand new head coach? And we've done that, right? A basketball genius New York brought in, and all it got them was a number 1 pick after how many? 3-4 seasons? He was around 3-4 seasons, something like that.
2. Yeah, and we don't talk about Bruno.
We don't talk about Bruno. Well, there were some other things going on there, but it's just weird how no one wanted to talk about that. But I just don't understand. Like, there was a lot that went wrong. We talked about it. For me, Sandy having to eat the fact that at times this team just didn't do what they were supposed to do is kind of wild to me. So here we go. Who's at the top of this list for available coaches? None other than Sandy Brondello herself. The candidate at the top of most coaching lists is likely former New York Liberty coach Sandy Brondello. Who is next? Noel Quinn. Now, I'm not sure I agree with this placement necessarily. I like Noel Quinn, and I've said before, I don't think she's shown enough to be a top 5, top maybe 8 coach in the WNBA. Not quite yet, although there's been a lot of fluctuation, so maybe she is there now. Who else is on here? Latricia Trammell. Now, she just went back to the Sparks as a part of their coaching staff. I think she's got a lot of spunk, a lot of energy. Obviously, she was with Dallas as her last head coaching stint. I'm not sure I believe in Coach Trammell for New York at this point in time, but maybe it depends on their roster, and we'll talk about free agency in a minute. Then they have Nola Henry, who did a great job in Unrivaled, so that's a fun name, but would be green, right? Brand new head coach in the WNBA. Then there's Teaspoon. I would love to see Teaspoon come back, and this is hard for me to say. I just think that here comes Griffin again.
Yeah.
Griffin's like, what you getting worked up about? I don't know. For my money, Teaspoon is maybe a season or 2 of coaching away, but also Chicago. Answer me this. Apparently, reports are that Chicago is not getting rid of their head coach. Brian, who had the better record in their first season with Chicago between Tyler and Teaspoon?
One Tyler, I know that. Was not.
So again, what are we doing? What are we actually doing, WNBA? And by WNBA, I mean the teams, the owners, but I digress. Teaspoon, I like, maybe just not right now. And then Brianne January is a very interesting name on this list. I think still kind of falls into maybe that Teaspoon, kind of in that Teaspoon area for me, but I think she might get the benefit of the doubt, whether it's the New York job or any job, because she's been on a W staff for a few seasons now, whereas Teaspoon stepped away for a little bit here. But Brian, what do you make of that list? Do you still think from who we know is available, is Sandy still a top get?
From the list that Megan put together, I feel like of those coaches, I would say Sandy is still the head and shoulders above them, because I think if we knock through them one by one, we've talked about Noe for the past 2 years with Seattle, and I think for the general complaint I've seen from fans is that Sandy didn't utilize the rotation enough. And Erica, what was the big problem in Seattle? And as you ask Stephanie Mitchell, you can ask Lexi Brown, you can ask whoever else is there.
Leroux. I mean, I go hard in the paint for Dominique Malunga. When you have the number 2 pick, you play the number 2 pick. Like, I don't understand that. Like, and I ain't got no beef with Noe. I really don't. But that to me was just like unfathomable.
Yeah, and I think for fans who have had to critique the steady drumbeat of criticism that she didn't utilize the rotation enough in the regular season, and then in the playoff setting, you would be going to a head coach that is a 6-7 player rotation when the stakes are at its absolute highest, and that's not the thing you want. So I don't think that Noe would fit there. For Nola Henry, I think it's so tough because a lot of people want present tense her to be a head coach in Clannis and head coach in Dallas and throw Chris Clannis overboard. And I guess for Nola, it's a situation where your only real head coaching work is unrivaled, and then you've been an assistant in Dallas, so you're going from a low stakes environment to a championship contender just like that. So Moni, I'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah. Let's get to it.
Yeah, I would say for Nola, it's tough. Like you'd be asking a lot, and then you're doing head coach work in a 5-on-5 setting. So I'd love to sort of know what the thinking is, how you're going to sort of utilize the roster that's presented to you come this spring. So that will be fascinating. For Spoon, I guess problem, for lack of a better term, I have is how much of Chicago's collapse in the second half of 2024 comes from not having Marina Mabrey on the team anymore and then losing your perimeter juice versus just not being able to sort of like keep the vibes organized, because they were competing for much of the season, and then after that, it's like when everything just sort of like went to hell. And the problem, I guess another thing I have with Spoon is that because I'll never forget, I read a quote from Beck Allen in May. Julia Poe of the Tribune asked every new Sky player, what was it like going against the team last year versus when you're in this year? And something Beck said to the effect was, they didn't look like they were organized. They didn't look like they were set. It looked very sort of chaotic. And then I remember also last year, we were talking to Leia after game, and she was like, the Sky bigs don't like to pass, the guards don't like to pass. So I don't know how much of that I can pin on the head coach versus the roster that Jeff P gave her. I'm more inclined to believe it's the roster, considering these same problems manifested itself this year, even with the jettison of Kennedy Carter. So I don't know how much of Chicago 2024 I can put on her as sort of like her head coach. So it's tough.
Right. And the best, and although albeit small sample size, is 2025. Because Teresa Weatherspoon, as nominal as it was, that team actually performed better than they did the season prior.
Yeah.
And you can look at some pieces, including Carter coming in, that maybe were part of and can be attributed to that. But the fact that, according to reports, you have Marsh being given the benefit of the doubt and Spoon wasn't, I just don't understand that. I don't understand that at all.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to Nola, because something that what's this man's name? Alex, right? That's he's the husband.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, Alex. He talks about the fact that Unrivaled went to a 3-on-3 game is because when you break things down in basketball, like when you're teaching sets, when you are focusing on skills, you're a lot of the times working 3-on-3. And so I hear what you're saying as far as how do you make that transition to 5-on-5? But I also wonder if just from a player and skill development perspective, there's there's an advantage to having that, not just as far as being a skills coach on a staff, but also being in a league that's uniquely positioned to have competition in that format. I think that's really interesting. I don't know if did you go over anything with Tramel? She's from Oklahoma.
Yeah, I missed LT. For LT, I think another coach where it's like, hey, I want my bench to play more. What did LT do when she last had Dallas? Enrique Gumawale, you're playing 39 minutes a game.
Like she played 60 minutes if that was feasible. And there was a comment over on our Tempestagi talk for our Seattle Storm fans, because we've been talking obviously about Quinn as well. There was a comment that was like, the players want more roster spots, the fans want more roster spots, and then coaches are only going 6-7 deep. I think that's interesting, and I think it's a little bit of basketball mentality and psyche. You have to also remember you have 44 games, and that's the longest season the WNBA has ever seen. 44 games comparative to what's an NBA season? How many regular season games? 82. So you're almost doubling up the opportunities, right? To get people healthy. Can you imagine if the WNBA season was 2 times what it is now? You best believe coaches would go to that bench. But you're working with, your season is half of a men's basketball season. And you want to tell me that in 40 some odd games, less really, that you're going to have that chemistry together if you rotate upward of 12 players? That where they do that at? There's not enough time. There's not enough rest. So I get it. Like, that's a cute thing to say, and it's an illogical argument given what we know about women's basketball.
And I think also, like we were talking about it last night, it's an existential question as far as no coach. I can't think of a single coach alive, any sport, any context, any decade, year, whatever, that is going 10 deep in an elimination game. It's we're at the end. I need who I think are my very best people, and I can't afford to have a dip. So I'm going 6-7 deep. Like last year in game 5, they went 6 deep after halftime, maybe 6 or 7. I want to say that was it.
Go there.
23 when they beat the Sun in Uncasville in game 4. I think only like one bench player came in after halftime, and it said, "Hey, our starters, like you've gotten us this far." It's like the starting pitcher in baseball, where it's like, okay, you're at 110 pitches. I don't trust my bullpen. Can you get us home? The answer is yes, and I'm gonna go with my best people, and I'm gonna live with the consequences of that. And I think that's understandable. And I think no coach is gonna, let's go. Let's run 11 deep in game 3 with our seasonal line. Like, I don't think anyone's going to do that. So I understand the idea of expanding a rotation. Like, you do that in June and July, but when it's September and it's okay, we have a week to get ready for the playoffs. We got to really get that rhythm down pat. Going 11 deep there, I think, is just questionable. I wouldn't do it if I were in a coach's position, and I don't think anyone who would be put in that spot would do the same. Like, you have your 8, 9 at the absolute most, and then you sort of like try to ride out from there.
100%. Theo saying they play 35 games in women's college and go 10 deep in the NCAA tournament. Okay,
this is a big old. I'll let you take it.
I mean, I feel like my response is in the statement.
Yeah,
that's NCAA.
yeah, it's
We talking about 18 to 22-year-olds.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Even Paige Beckers, we've talked about this on whether it's Tempestaji Talk or on Gotta Get Up. Paige Beckers was entering the WNBA with her coach, the arguably best, certainly the most winningest coach in NCAA women's basketball, saying that he doesn't know if she is going to be aggressive enough on her shot. That's a development league for all intents and purposes. It's a very well, it doesn't run as one, but like Paige Beckers was still figuring out how to hunt for her shot in the NCAA. There are so many different things also that go into that, including that they get more rest in 35 some odd games. They get more rest.
Yeah. And I guess within that, there's these sort of dips in quality. Like you're not gonna go up against South Carolina every night, whereas like you're at the very top of the mountain.
Depending on what conference you're in, I guess.
That is true. Because Kim Mulkey, I feel bad for you, sister. It's rough living for you with Dawn running around. So it's tough to sort of like compare them. It's almost it's apples to oranges in a lot of respects, and I think also the level of competition is I think for as good as women's college basketball is, the W is still a step or two higher.
Well, 100%. And it's concentrated, right? Yeah. It's concentrated because there aren't as many teams and conferences and rest in between. Yeah, right. She had multiple injuries, and you can nurse injuries when it comes to the NCAA in a way that you don't in the WNBA.
And also, Erica,
it's not like you said, it's apples to oranges. Like I appreciate the attempt, and it's not the same. And like Moni said, that 10 deep is a lot, even at the NCAA level, because that don't always happen.
And I think, and I think also to that point, especially after halftime, we noticed it a bit more. Like it became like it was more spaced out in the first half, but then the second half, it's just a dead-on sprint. And then within that sprint, once people start dropping the baton, it's, oh God, I got to go back and pick it up. So it's like you're trying to sprint to the finish line, but you're losing people along the way. So it made it a lot harder to really sort of like iron out the things you wanted to do. So I think the sprint of it and the compactness of it made it really challenging. And I think it really sort of like pressed on limitations within the roster that I didn't think were present if you asked me at the beginning of June with this roster. But the nature of the second half and the compressedness of it and the injuries that sort of like picked up along the way, I think really sort of pressed on fissures within the roster that I didn't visualize. And then from there, it's the season's longer, but you have less time to get it right before the or else came. And unfortunately for Sandy, the or else came this morning.
Wild. Also, I'm just catching up over on our Slack channel. Moni, I see that you're here, so I just want to clarify because I talked a lot about being miffed that the New York Liberty did not hold exit interviews, which Brian and I have maybe discussed. Was there a little bit of reading in the tea leaves in that in and of itself?
Yep.
And I think that this is a point worth clarifying. So exit interviews, as far as my knowledge, they happen in professional sports. It's commonplace. It's a way to establish a lot of different things. And so when we talk about exit interviews from our perspective, we're talking about the time that teams carve out for players, usually one by one, although the Liberty have been a team that kind of bring two out at a time. It's usually a time where we get to sit. And usually it's at the facilities because what's happening is everything from physicals to conversations with the coach. That's the exit interview from from the organizational perspective. And there's other things, I'm sure, cleaning out the locker, logistics, things like that, last paycheck, who knows. But usually what teams will do, since all of the personnel are quite literally at the facility, they'll make it like a circuit. And so a player will go from, you know, their physical to their paperwork to media interview to coach, and everyone follows that circuit. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about media exit interviews. But exit interviews in this case of the New York Liberty happened, it sounds like today, this morning, Eastern time, because, you know, that's a little different for me and where I'm at now. But this morning, the New York Liberty held their exit interviews, their organizational exit interviews. They did not offer exit interview time slots for media. And that's when Sandy was told of the decision. And yeah, it's kind of wild to me that the New York Liberty made this decision. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, with regard to what we understand is a team that I think still could be a championship contender. We know the roster is going to change. 4 out of the 5 starters are free agents. Now, some of that, for example, Stewie said pre them not retaining Brondello, might I add, that she wants to return. You know, Sabrina Ionescu kind of didn't directly answer the question, which I think is honestly smart. And I was here in Seattle, but not physically present for exit interviews, but I participated via video. And what you're hearing from a lot of players is, if you're asking, this is what Erica Wheeler said, if you're asking me if Seattle is a part of the conversation, I think it was Wheeler and Slim said something similar. If you're asking me if Seattle is still in contention, from my experience this year, I would say yes, and I'm keeping my options open. Those are veterans, you know, who likely have fewer seasons ahead of them than they do behind them, and they know there's a new CBA coming out. So all of that makes complete sense. A lot of players from exit interviews that I have been hearing are not committing one way or another because they want to see what that CBA is going to bring. So that in and of itself, as far as Sabrina maybe not definitively stating that she wants to be in New York comparative to what Stewie said, I think people are making a lot of that. But what she also said, Sabrina, that is that she hopes to play her entire career with Stewart. So if Stewart's coming back to New York, you might think that Sab wants to come back to New York. But my question, Brian, is, do you think in any way that them not retaining Brondello, especially after Stewie said, we have Sandy's back, we're not going to point fingers, you know, anyone calling for Sandy's job, like, she basically said she literally said, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, that was her reaction, was what the fuck? You know, does that impact now Stewie as a free agent returning to the Liberty?
I think the answer to that depends on the sequencing of things. So a lot of times, whenever, to do like a comparison piece to the men's side, whenever the coaches let go and you have a franchise player with, say, like Brandon Stewart does, you run it by them. Like, you're not going to have a situation where you just sort of like catch a Brandon Stewart or Sabrina Ionescu by surprise. If they did, they're fools. And I don't know the Liberty to be fools in that regard. So I'm assuming that they ran that by both of them to be like, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is why. Are you okay with it? And then they come to an understanding, and then they progress from there. So I don't think not having Sandy is going to be the thing that may sort of drive the big three away from the team. I think when it comes to the next steps, I'm almost certain they're gonna like have them involved in the process, at least until the CBA expires, because after October 30th, then you're on your own when it comes to that kind of thing. So I think leading up to the expiration of the CBA, those players, I'm almost certain, are going to have input as to here are the people we're looking at. We're going to start bringing them in. Here's like a profile of each person that we're thinking of, and then we operate from there. So they're going to be involved in the process, and I think their input is going to have some say. It may not be the ultimate. It may not be the oh, hey, hire Steve Nash because I work with him at Golden State, like it was for the Brooklyn Nets a few years back. It's going to be, okay, hey, here's what we're thinking.
But isn't it though? Like, you see what I'm saying? See,
Yeah.
and this comment from Damien, I mean, surprise, I don't agree with, because this is what drives me wild, burns my grits when it comes to people talking about women in sports. Don't patronize by saying it's business, as if women's basketball doesn't understand that. Okay? And if that's not how you meant it, then you know what? I'll take that. But you talking to a person who's been in women's sports and had to deal with business 101 when the NBA clearly doesn't know anything about business 101 because they've been driving the WNBA into the dirt. Anyway, I digress. Business 101. This is something that people say either when they want to dismiss a woman having, original thoughts, or they say when it's something that's considered quote unquote cutthroat, right? No feelings, it's business. How you treat people is business. Okay? Because we have someone who is the commander-in-chief of this country who understands how to treat certain people and doesn't give a crap about everybody else. And so one thing is it's business. I'm cutting funding because it's business. And another thing is, oh, well, these are my homies and I'm looking out. So what is it? Which is business? Okay? Because we see in the WNBA people being hired with no experience. We've seen it in the New York Liberty happen. Basketball genius. Had to get rid of that genius because he was doing things he shouldn't have been doing. I mean, I didn't mean to connect that to the president of the United States, but if you know, you know. So, like, it's business is not an excuse to not consider the relationships. And Sandy wins that head and shoulders over most coaches that have ever coached in the WNBA. Now, if you want to talk about its strategy, it's business in that they didn't believe that she was the right person. It's business in that, things just didn't work out. That's how I feel about Noelle Quinn. Things just didn't work out. Noelle Quinn absolutely should have another head coaching job. But like to just dismiss it as it's business when we're talking about your star player talking about what the fuck when presented with the option of Sandy Brondello exiting, because I'm pretty sure who's that man who is on your shirt? Has he ever said anything about coaches or had something to say about relationships with coaches or other players for that matter, or Kobe or MJ, or like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's wild to me that when women talk about relationships and creating a positive work environment, then we're like dumb because we're supposed to just accept it's business. There are multiple facets of business. And I understand that there are expectations that this New York Liberty squad has. My point is, Sandy, as you have already said, Brian, as far as we know, all signs point to never lost the locker room, including your star player, Breanna Stewart, playing on a sprained MCL and still dropping 20 plus points while driving her shoulders into the chest of everyone on Phoenix. Like she's going to bat for your head coach. Now it's business. She'll understand it, but you know what else is business? She don't have to play where she don't feel comfortable. And depending on what happens, yeah, the business side too is, you know what? I know I said I wanted to come back to New York. Y'all made these changes. I don't really see myself in this future, in this vision that you have provided. That's business too.
Yeah, and I think to the people part of it, I did the newser for Nets Daily on the Sandy situation today, and I had a quote from Tosh Cloud in there. Maddie Kenny from the Post was in Phoenix, and she talked to Cloud about Sandy, and Cloud was like, Sandy kept us together all season long. Like, we have her back, she has ours. So it's a situation where you have to sort of explain to the people in the room why this is the decision you've made, and why, even though the buy-in was still there, we need to move on differently. Like, this is where exactly where we talk about not having people available to us as far as access. This is okay, Jonathan, like you're good to talk to us. Like we see you all the time. Like you make room for us to talk. Now, as an organization, we need you to publicly in a room full of people asking you various questions. Okay, walk me through the thinking here. Is it a situation where, because if Kolb's thinking is, okay, I didn't like that you didn't utilize this player enough, I may agree or disagree, but I can start putting it together in my head without having to sort of like guesstimate and speculate. I'd rather at least we can like have a conversation as to the why of it all. Because I think within the why, we get a feeling and a sort of like we get the breadcrumbs as to what's next, whether it be someone you have internally, whether it be someone external, whether someone via the college ranks, and a men's coach that's been professional before. What is the sort of like early lead that you have? And that way we can at least start putting it together, because we talk to Kolb all the time. Like he's great. He's insightful. He gives us a lot of great details. So I would love for him to like walk the public through as to the thinking there. And I guess briefly on the other part about the business thing, I think everything you said was right. And I just want to add one thing too. Like there's this greater sort of like I guess within the organizations of like trying to sort of like mimic the men in some respects, where it's like, oh yeah, like this is how they do it. This is how the NBA does it. Oh, the NBA prices be sky high. We're gonna make our prices sky high. Oh, NBA don't give access to that. We're not gonna give access to that. It's like you don't need to be them, because a lot of what they do, frankly, kind of sucks. Like I can be honest about that, because I see how the men operate in a lot of respects, and I'm like, you don't need to like kick it like that. You don't need to move like that, even though they are the parent league and they are skimping out on paying the players, which is bullshit. But you don't need to sort of mimic their practices and how they treat coaches, how they treat players, things like that. You don't need to do that, because even though it may be quote unquote successful for them, you can do different, and you don't have to sort of mimic that. So I would say the Damien's not wrong when he says it's a business, but it's a people business, most importantly. Like being cutthroat about stuff is like fine, I guess, but you can operate and move a lot differently. So you don't have to just sort of like be not so much cold, because I don't know, like I imagine this is what they've had in mind, because you don't just like like it's not you wake up in a cold sweat and be like, I gotta get this person out of here. Like this is a thought that's been sort of gesticulating for a while, I'm almost certain. So now it's I'd love to hear the thought process as to how you made the decision. What if there was a sort of like blinking red light moment where it's like, okay, if we don't get outcome here, which I'm presuming is championship, if everything was championship or nothing, and you have Sandy to a 2-year extension after last year's finals, and then with a team option, and it's like, oh, every year of her employment is baked in with winning a championship or out the door. Is that going to be the standard for the next head coach coming in and the staff that they select? And then we didn't even get to what is the assistants going to look like. Is that going to be here? Is Sonia going to be here? Is Olaf going to be here? I'm going to assume no for Olaf, because that's her husband.
Yeah,
but probably not. So is the expectation for the next coach coming in and the players coming in, it's championships or nothing? If it's that, you can say that out loud, and then we have this sort of like shift. We sort of like know the landscape where it's like, okay, I'm in the crooked room. The expectation is championship or nothing. My feet are set. Let's work. If it's something different, then we would need to hear that as well too.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is hilarious. Oh, so now you want Brondello back, homie? You've been calling for
hey man, you like
year.
It's like
since last year. That's no cap. My man, you've been on this last year.
Hold on, man. Hold on, man.
Listen.
Hold up. Time out. Let me hold on.
You get yourself together. I just want to say, hey, Kyoka, thank you for joining. First timer here. We appreciate y'all hopping on, as well as Winsome. We got
man. You told me to get out the house, and now you want me to come back in the house. No, I am moving on. I got my eyes somewhere else.
That's wild. Yeah, this is something actually, Brian, that you mentioned. It could be interesting. I put in the chat also an ESPN article. Kevin Pelton talking about Sandy to Seattle. Listen, it's a no for me, dog.
Really?
Like,
Tell me
it's a
more.
no for me, dog. I don't think that the Seattle organization is in a good situation for Sandy Brondello, and she might find herself in the same position within a year or two. Because, you know, this season for the New York Liberty started asking, it had me asking questions about the front office, not in a way, in my opinion, where Jonathan Kolb should be without a job, but I also didn't think Sandy should be without a job. But what I've been saying more so on the Seattle side is, and this is true, I don't care who you are, if you are a GM and you start hearing murmurings about your head coach, one move that you can immediately make is to hit that eject button to give yourself at least another season or two. And that's how I feel about Seattle. And I just, again, you have the number 2 pick, you got to play the number 2 pick. And so that was clearly some kind of discrepancy between the front office and the coaching staff, because I don't understand how Dominique Malonga was either picked if she wasn't going to play, but when you did pick her, how come it took forever for her to play? Oh, she's 19, we got to work on it. So then don't have her start her career. Give her another year overseas then. Draft and stash if that's how you feel. But like, come on. Anyway, I digress. My point with Seattle is Sandy is, and I want to come back to this. R. Varnell, tell me what you mean, Erica. That's why I mentioned laissez-faire last night. Like, what do you mean? Like, tease that out a little bit. Like, I want to know, I want to hear and learn more, because I'm not sure I understand exactly what you mean by that. And I'm curious, like what that means, so we can talk about it a little more. Because to me, Sandy's laissez-faire approach should not have impacted her job. You know, I do know that that's Sandy's style. It's not always comfortable for me, but I do trust her results. She's one of the best coaches that the WNBA has ever seen as far as results. And she is the best coach that the New York Liberty have ever had. So, you know, I think it's really interesting. I'd love to hear what you think about that. But I mean, Moni, I'm with you. And also apparently Seattle fans don't want Sandy. I think Seattle should want Sandy. I don't think Sandy should want Seattle, I guess I could have summarized by saying that. You know, Moni also saying, I think they developed Dom well. Well, I mean, I just don't understand. I guess I'll say this, and then we'll get back to the New York Liberty. If you're saying you want to be a championship caliber team and you want to develop Dominique Malonga, I think that the timeline was way more conservative than it needed to be to meet both of those things. Because the best way to develop a young talent who you ultimately are going to rely on is to give them minutes. And you know what? If they develop Dom like they developed Ezzy, I'm out the window. I think that Seattle has kept Ezzy on the back burner way too long. And she got no teeth at times. But anyway,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Keep it brief on Seattle. I think that's where, you know, we turfed Noe because she didn't play Dom. And then they walked into the year with Dom as the 4th big behind Ezzy, Nneka, and Lee Yuru. So that's a situation where if the edict from on high is get Dom on the court, as a general manager, your job should be you need to clear the runway so Dom can actually play. And that meant, like, you got Lee Yuru in the trade along with Dom in the pick. It's okay, Lee is clogging up space here. We don't want to play. We want Dom to really get those minutes. It's, hey, I know some teams looking for big. Lee, thank you for coming along in this trade, but you guys to go elsewhere because we need a guard to help us out. We need this and that. Like, that's where to the two timeline point of Seattle being championship or nothing. And it's, oh, hey, timeline 1, championship, get to the second round, do all these things. Timeline 2, we want Dom to be the best player in basketball in 2 years. And that starts with her playing now, getting her these reps at 19 so she can keep stocking up her game. So both timelines seem like didn't merge together. And then Noe not playing her is just like the consequences of it. And then as an organization, you have to go pay for Slim and give up a pick. You have some more in the tuck, but still it's if we did our work early and found something that we needed beforehand, we could have offset the absence of a Jordan Horston. We could have got another 2 guard besides Weezy at shooting guard. We could have done all of these different things, and maybe we would have the best optimized version of the roster we want. And then if you mess it up, you on the clock anyway. Now you really on the clock, and it's like August 1st, and we're on a 6-game losing streak. Get out. So that stuff like that, it all sort of comes together as far as like organizational philosophy. How you as the GM is the famous Bill Parcells getting the groceries quote, where it's like, oh, I can only work with the groceries they give me. You store management, you need to get better groceries. You need to shop. I have no reference of Seattle supermarkets, so I can't say shop.
We need premium shop.
Yeah, go there, get the good stuff, and then.
Oh, I just meant like premium as in the word, not as in like a place. But
I was gonna say, I'm like, there's like a premium in Seattle.
Premium. Imagine I'm open a supermarket and it's gonna be called premium. But anyway, like the crackers. But yeah, Moni and Leslie, don't worry, we will have a Seattle Storm specific show because we got to talk about a lot of the same things.
Ooh.
I mean, it's really interesting, and it wasn't intentional. That I feel like both of these teams are similar in a lot of ways, and yet the results are wildly different in the years that we've been covering these two teams on Black Rosie Media. But it does make for interesting conversation because we're often bouncing back and forth. But this is to talk about Sandy. We are going to have, I'm waiting to hear back from Huerta just to make sure our schedule is aligned. But until you hear otherwise, we will be going tomorrow, Wednesday, on our regular day. But we will get back to that. This Brondello news, I think it's unfortunate. Again, Sandy, not a perfect coach, but she's definitely a great coach. I hear and see the comments regarding motivation. And that's something that I've talked about as a critique, as a criticism. And at some point, and I feel like I talked about this yesterday on our, regularly scheduled Gotta Get Up. It's always going to be on the coach when players don't perform. And it shouldn't always be. Like if we were talking about business, we would talk about some of the things that happened. I think the injuries, and it was now in hindsight, hearing Sandy talk about the injuries in what was her last media availability for the New York Liberty, she's right. And as I've said throughout the season, wasn't the whole story. But to me, at least part of the story has to be that some players just couldn't get out of their heads. Yeah. They got stuck in the sand. And yes, in theory, right, your coaching staff is supposed to help people, but the old adage, you can bring a horse or a dog or whoever to water, but you can't make them drink. You can tell a player to box out, and that doesn't mean they're going to go get you a rebound.
Yeah. Like that's the sort of fundamental thing about it, where it's like ultimately you can tell someone to do something, but the person on the court has agency and determination to do the thing they're supposed to do. And they've talked about, oh, hey, we can't just rely on JJ to get these boards. And it's right. There's a loose ball and two people are like staring at it. And then what happens? Sammy Whitcomb sneaks in for a board. And it's like, you told me that this is a thing you want to do, and then you're not doing it. And it's been 5 months of you not doing the thing you said you want to do. So right. Yeah, so I think ultimately a coach can like yell and fuss all they want about players not executing. Like you can punch a clipboard on camera, do all those kind of things, but ultimately it's the players who are out there who are supposed to execute the vision. And if the vision is simple one-on-one, put a hat on a hat, get the board. Don't do anything reckless as far as like trying to dribble up the court in transition. Like just do the things that you're supposed to do and you'll be fine. If the players aren't doing that, you can sort of pull them aside and talk to them, or you can just have like a super, I guess to Arvanel's point, as far as like laissez-faire, just have like a super tight hook. If that's the thing to have, then I think that's the thing I think that's a fair conversation to have, of having a super quick hook, because Sandy will have a quick hook on occasion. Like there'd be times where Sabrina will have like a bad turn where she's like, you know what? Come and sit next to me, big fellow. Like, come on, sit down for a couple minutes, and then gets back in and she's fine. So it's a situation of, would you want the head coach to have a quicker hook in a moment where a player is messing up, or I'll make it specific in the case of JJ, a player who's not performing up to any reasonable standard. Like if she has a C game, we're talking right now about how they stopped Minnesota. JJ had an F game. And now we enter into an off season of uncertainty. And it's a situation where if you're the head coach, I trust my players and I'm hands off. I let them process their emotions. I let them vent it out. I let them try to get to where they need to be. I may have like a small conversation, but not like a whole show of like, you have to do this right now. You're this and that. Like if that's not your thing, that's not your thing. And if you just do it randomly, it's either you're super emotional or people are going to see through it and think it's a front and you're performing for an audience kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then I guess on the other end is, if I guess to the other part of that, if you see someone sort of like sinking and you're not getting them out, that's the downside of being sort of laissez-faire and letting your people figure it out on their own. Because if they don't figure it out, it's why didn't you help them? Yeah, and ultimately, whenever, like, you can't get rid of every player. Like the person that always goes, head coach. Head coach goes first. It's an unfortunate fact of life when it comes to this kind of game. But the coach usually gets it, and then now it's okay, next coach coming in. Your player is locked in on the refs. They're not focused. They're making bad transition take fouls. They look like they're not even listening to their teammates who are trying to sort of get them back in the swing of the game. All those kind of things. What are you going to do when that situation presents itself? Because that situation will present itself again, and it'll happen in a situation where you absolutely cannot afford to have it happen. What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, lots of questions. Arvanel, thank you for clarifying. And that's what I thought you meant. You know, Sandy gave her players a lot of autonomy and empowerment to her players. That is why she is loved by them. She cares. And in the ESPN article, you know, I guess this was a part of the media availability outside of the locker room after the Phoenix loss. But I mean, also dropping expletives was Tosh Cloud, in saying that, you know, every player loves her. I think there should be a lot more respect, and that can be said to our fans too. She just brought you a first championship ever to this organization. Y'all better put some fucking respect on her name.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. End show. That's all we have. Ellie, wave it out. You know, like, I don't know what else to say after that.
Yeah.
Because I think she's absolutely right. And yes, it's a business. We get that. The fact that, I mean, not to make it all about Seattle, but the fact that Noel Quinn was brought back this season and Sandy Brondello is out after this season, it's like, where is the goalpost? Or how Teresa Weatherspoon was ousted after her one season in Chicago. Let's keep it apples to apples, right? And according to reports, Tyler Marsh will still have a job after next year. Now, if you want to talk about his business, you're looking at the record. The only thing, and I will leave space for this, the only thing I can imagine is that there was an irreparable tear, right, between these coaches, in the case of Teaspoon, but more so Sandy Brondello, and somebody in the organization. Now, that could be a player. Noel Quinn definitely had to, you know, battle through some reporting on that. But for Sandy, I wonder if it was more of a philosophy. And you know, maybe it's not this really diabolical, you know, tethered relationship. It just comes down to, this is the vision that we see, and they want to hedge their bets elsewhere, which then becomes, Brian, a lot of people asking this, do we think the New York Liberty have a coach in mind? My answer is they bloody well better, because I want to read exactly what I wrote in another Slack channel, because I really liked the turn of phrase, and I want to make sure I get it right here. I believe I said that something to the effect of, whoever New York gets, they better have experience and they better be ready to compete right away, because what the New York Liberty doesn't need is a starter coach. If they get a first-time head coach, I'm a flip a table, Brian.
Yeah.
And I guess this is a team 1 season removed, and arguably, if the players hadn't underperformed, and again, I do think injuries were a massive part of that, mentally and physically, this team should, yes, I think you can still hold space to not think Sandy deserved this, while also saying this was a team that was expected to and likely should have done better in the playoffs. Were they going to win a championship with all of the injuries and some of the inconsistencies? Likely not. I just don't know that any coach would have been able to fix that in enough time to get them another championship. But bowing out in the first round, not a good look. We can all say that.
Yeah.
Is it bad enough, given all of the circumstances, for them to fire her? And then this is where maybe they're playing, the comparison game. And I said this about Indiana last year, but getting Caitlin Clark is creating a shorter leash, because there's a lot of MNBA-esque activity happening in the WNBA that we haven't seen maybe ever, but definitely not since the early years of the W. But if that is your benchmark, which I don't think it should be, and the MNBA never really gave a damn too much, to before, but Caitlin Clark coming to Indiana, Christy Sides was just not the right coach for a Caitlin Clark-led team. Stephanie White, a much better head coach there. So is this the case where they feel like either they have a superstar or they want to acquire a superstar that Sandy is not equipped to coach? Yeah. Because I don't think it's anyone on the roster now. That's just my assessment. Yeah. I don't know that it's anyone on the roster now. So then do they have something in place? But for my money, Brian, for whatever it's worth, I don't see a world in which someone with less experience than Sandy Brondello, I'll even add Noelle Quinn, although I don't think she's the right choice for New York, Sandy Brondello, anyone with less experience than Sandy Brondello, Noelle Quinn, Cheryl Reeve, Becky Hammond, and I'll add in Nate Tibbetts, because I do think he's a coach in this league right now. I think he's starting to show that and prove that. If anyone comes in with less experience than those coaches that I just named, is it realistic that they perform better than Sandy Brondello did in 2025?
Yeah, and I think that's a hard question to ask, because like one of the comments we mentioned earlier floated Sonia as a possibility. I think if they keep it in house, they might go there, because Sonia has years of assistant work in Memphis on the men's side. I think she coached. I think you mentioned at Yale, some Ivy League. She has had coaching experience, and then she's been in house for the past year. And as I understand how Kolb sees basketball, as far as like the shots he wants to get on offense, how he wants to sort of like utilize a roster, she might be a hand in glove fit. We don't know, and we'll have to dig in more into it. I think also the next thing I would want to sort of like think about is when Sandy first came in, she was on a 3-year contract, and then we got reporting from our guy Ben Pickman at the Athletic, that after the championship, Sandy had a 2-year extension, 1 year this year with a team option for next. And then it didn't hit the way you wanted to this year, so now she's gone. When for the next coach coming in, are you going to give them a 3-year window to execute the vision you have in mind, right? Or is it going to be a 1+1 every year, where when now we as a public and most reporters don't know that, oh hey, this is not guaranteed. Like that sort of Damocles is just idly hanging around up there. Is that going to be the expectation? And if so, how do you now, as a general manager, what do you do to not sort of like try to cash in immediately for every single season versus thinking of a longer term vision as well too, because now they don't like, as we think about them refreshing the roster and what it looks like, they're down to rotation players this winter. No first round draft pick coming in this year. There was reporting last year that they had their eyes on Sonia Citron and would have loved to have gotten her, but she was and then the Sky pick made it a completely non-starter. So now it's okay. Is the vision? Are you like you're?
Oop, I lost you, Brian.
Oh hey, yeah, absolutely not. Like you're not doing that. So now it's a situation where if you're JK, yeah, we're back. It was a brief loop, but we're back. Okay. Yeah. Now, if you're JK, how are you managing both ends of it? Are you bringing in more of the international talent you have stashed overseas? Are they coming in? Are they healthy to come into the United States context? Are we okay? This is an interesting comment. I don't want to lose it. Let me catch it now. I don't have an opinion on Sonia, but I do wonder if she also has the same thing on her. Yeah, where B Cat? I hope I pronounced it right. I think that's a fair question. We didn't see the status of the assistant coaches in the press release, so that's to be determined. I'm gonna assume yes, because a new head coach is gonna want their people,
their staff. Yeah. Not unusual. Sometimes you might see a coach or two retain, but it's not unusual. I wanted to come to this though. Alexa Philippou apparently talking to Becky Hammon, and this is what Becky, who some of y'all want to see in this seat. I don't love it for Sandy. I have to be honest. She's just won a championship. She's won in other places. And I know her to be a quality coach and a quality person. Those are rare sometimes to get that mixture of qualities as a head coach. So, I mean, I agree. Okay, there we go. Right. I agree. I agree with Becky here. And I think we've seen this, especially for women head coaches in the WNBA since the beginning of time. They have a super short leash. Someone, I think it was Damien, mentioned Vicki Johnson. I want to be on board with Vicki Johnson as a head coach in the W. Like, I really want to. And she has had a really rough track record in the WNBA as a head coach. Like, it's been rough. Dallas, what is now the Aces organization, San Antonio at the time. And again, rotations seem to be the Achilles heel for a lot of these coaches. Listen, don't even get me started. Don't even get me started. And by that, I think you mean JK said the same shit when he hired Walt Hopkins. He wanted an experienced coach with proven experience. Because when he fired Walt, they got Sandy, which needed to happen. But anyway, Cheryl Reeve, who Walt worked under, was one of the loudest with regard to that hire and the greater issue in women's basketball. I wrote about that. It's one of my favorite articles I've ever written, actually. I'm going to put it in the chat for y'all. But yeah, the Walt Hopkins, I did not like that hire at all. Like, at all. And you hate to be right about shit, especially given how things went down. But it just, it was a no for me, dog. It was a no for me, dog, from jump. But anyway, I digress. It's going to be really interesting to see how this team moves forward. It wouldn't surprise me. As a matter of fact, I'm going to say it this way. If you get rid of Sandy Brondello, you better know who's coming in the door, or at least have a super short list. Maybe not like a Penny Toller 1 of 1, because we saw how that worked out too. If y'all don't know, that was Fisher. If the New York Liberty get themselves in a Walt Hopkins Fisher situation, I am going to flip multiple tables until that's not the case anymore. Like, I just don't understand. They need to, I'll just put it this way. because I don't get paid to make these kinds of decisions. And I saw someone say in Jonathan Kolb we trust. I really do like Jonathan. I know you mentioned it already, Brian. I think he's solid quality. You know, you don't get it right every time, and you got to work with what you have. I'm going to try and trust the process here, but they can't fudge this up.
Yeah.
Rini Ionescu is starting to get into her prime years. Brianna Stewart is getting closer to being on the other side of her prime years. Tosh Cloud could be a great get. Jonquel Jones fit in Sandy's system for the most part. I do think there were times where the team needed to kind of step up and meet Jonquel Jones where she was at. And then we saw what happened in 2025. But you have a window. The championship window is still open. And if this coaching change fudges that up, good luck explaining that to a New York Liberty fan base.
And a fan base that, hey, it's premium basketball. They pay premium prices. You better be good. Like you gotta be good to make the time investment as far as like watching and the actual investment of like traveling to the arena and paying certain prices to be in the building worth it. And I think also, like we mentioned it a little bit up top, like they essentially, as far as like figuring out how to do this, I think they have about a month to get it before the CBA ends, assuming there's like extensions in there and the league is still open for business in some regards. You want to like at least have players who may be on the roster before free agency and expansion drafts and the like, at least get some face time with the new head coach coming in, because it's, oh, hey, we've been gone. Basketball has been off for like 10 months. Oh, hey, here's a brand new coach. Let's figure it out on the fly without getting any real FaceTime with them within the context of the organization itself. So you want to get this done fast. Like you want to make sure you do your due diligence. You want to do everything right and quick.
You want to get it done fast, but it has to be right. It has to be right, which means that they probably have someone in mind. If JK hired Bird, wouldn't she be a starter coach? Yes, she would be. Also, isn't she an owner of the Seattle Storm?
She is. And has another job that is currently taking place right now. Yep.
USAB, girl. Okay, I want to know what's tea when it comes to USAB. Like I have not seen, and so maybe I missed it. But has Cheryl Reeves said anything about not wanting to return, a la Dawn Staley? Because Dawn said she wasn't coming back, and so we knew the job was open. Last I remember hearing, she said something that's much closer to the 2024 Olympics. She said something like, it's always an honor. If I'm asked, I'll be there, kind of vibe.
I gotta double check because I know she did a sit down with our friend Christina Williams. With Christina Williams. I think Christina might have asked her about that, but I don't remember off the top of my head. So I gotta go back and watch the video again.
Yeah, I mean we've talked about this already, Damien. But I think it's a matter of. To me, Sandy Brondello is the best coach available. So they're not going to hire her. So I really don't know where they're going with this. If they get a starter coach, like I said, that better be the best dang starter coach in the world, because I don't understand how you go from someone like Sandy Brondello to someone who has no WNBA experience, no women's basketball experience. Like I like miss me with that all the way. As far as what I think the roster will be, we need to have the CBA. 4 of the 5 starters. Leo is the only starter who is under contract for whenever the next season is. Tosh, free agent. Sabrina, free agent. That's the big one. Sabrina and JJ. Stewie has said she wants to come back, but that was pre-Brondello. And I heard what you said, and I saw some comments about, oh, you don't make a move like this without your players' input. That's different than you can hear what they say, but that doesn't mean you're going to abide by what they say. And Tosh and Stewie, unless they were blowing smoke up everyone's butts, they made it clear how they feel about Sandy. And the organization made it clear how they feel about Sandy. And so as far as my money, they're on opposite sides right now. And so what are you saying to Stewie and Tosh to make them want to come back, knowing that they went hard in the paint for Sandy? Like, to me, that's not adding up here. Yeah. I get it. Now, they might have been given a quote unquote heads up, but again, them not holding media availability, them announcing this the same day of organizational exit interviews, they knew. I would be shocked if they didn't know that they were going to get rid of Sandy if XYZ happened. You know, had she gotten to the semifinals, would that have made a difference? Or was it championship or bust?
Yep. Yeah.
I mean,
yep. You're right. Like that's that's where the timeline and the communication aspect really comes into play. It's okay, this is the thing you're doing. Can you explain the thought process? Because it's just, oh, we're doing this, and then we just sort of like disappear into the ether for like a couple months until free agency comes around.
right.
So yeah, that's the situation where the communication aspect of it all matters a ton, because you have to explain that out. And I think especially for Tosh and Stewart, when you jump off the roof in the way that they did, like you're doing it because you want that person there. And even in Maddie's reporting, like the players are like, why would you even ask that? What are you talking about? And it's
well, that's what they said. Like they said it. That was a live press conference.
Yeah, it's like what? And
the WNBA, like they made it very clear.
They made it very clear.
We did, yeah.
Yeah. They made it very clear that this is even a topic. What? But it turns out like
I disagree with this.
I think where because I can see it. I know they're loyal, but I think also like you would sort of like see the fissures if it was a situation where it's like, oh, like their eyes are wandering to a bit. Because I think especially the effort never waned for me in watching them this year. Like there were moments where the execution sort of like dipped, and there were moments where I'm like, you're not executing, like you're not doing the thing you're supposed to do. But I never saw, because I remember like the players, like sometimes they would ask. There was like one instance where I think someone asked Tosh about like effort, and almost with the implication that there was no effort being played, and she was like really aggravated about it. So I think the effort was there and consistent all season long, even amidst the losses and things like that. So I don't think that they sort of like didn't buy into Sandy. I just felt like since they didn't win, it's okay, how are we going to change things up to make sure that this doesn't happen to us again? The easiest place to start is the head coach, and then we sort of like let the water flow from there.
Yeah. I mean, and I would just add that Tosh and Stewie didn't need to put on a show at all. They chose to operate in that energy. You know, I mean, Stewie was in Seattle and she opted not to be there anymore. You know, Stewie was with Nike and she opted not to be there anymore. Like sis don't got no problems cutting herself off from things that she don't get down with. And the same for Tosh. Tosh was very vocal when she was like, I was told I could end my career in Phoenix and then I get no notice. So I have no reason to believe that they would put on a show. Now, I don't know yet if it's worthy of reading into the tea leaves with Sabrina, because Sabrina, generally speaking, is more reserved. I just get the sense that she's more of a person that doesn't necessarily like to have her thoughts on blast, especially if they're not definitive.
That's that media thing.
Exactly. And, you know, like she got labeled as very distant, maybe, early in her career because, and I respect it. She was just like, you know, if I ain't got nothing to say, I ain't gonna say nothing. You know, I don't know. I had to have to look back, you know, and if that was the energy that she was giving off, she played it very well because she leaned into basically we just lost of it all. Like she wasn't really trying to engage with too much regardless. Like she was there, but you know, not really trying to do too much, which understandable as well. But that's the only thing. And this is not me reporting. This is just me asking a question kind of out loud to myself. I mean, I don't know that I have seen any indications that Sabrina wasn't still on board with Sandy. I really just don't. I mean, Brian, you're around the team a lot more. I that always seemed to be a good working relationship. But again, although I don't like this move, it doesn't necessarily mean that this move is like some big kind of slap in the face. I think, honestly, I reserve my final judgment on who they bring in next. Because for me, Jonathan Kolb has one really good hire and he has one really bad hire under his belt. And they are exact polar opposites. And Sandy was the course correction. not the choice. She was the course correction.
Yep. So we'll see. Like it's a lot that they have to sort of like figure out and uncover. And I think I think from everything I've sort of seen from people I've talked to and been around, like the relationship between Sab and Org is like rock solid and like amazing. Like between the work they do with her foundation, between the work that she does in the court, the support they have, like the org will always visit her when she's training in the winter time. So there's that level of like care and communication is always there. Like even early on when she was struggling, the org made sure to really sort of protect her from any sort of like arrows that were coming her way, and they did a really good job of that. So I would say that everything with them is rock solid and really on the right alignment. And I think now for Kolb and I guess the org itself, it's just a matter of making sure that you keep her in contention, because you want to make sure that you make Barclays the place to be for players coming in as free agents who have their eyes on a new team, and the players who are already here, like the core players who are here. Even like a player like Leo, you have the risk of like, oh, I've been playing basketball across continents nonstop. Maybe I should take a break if this isn't the atmosphere I want to be in. I can take a break from one thing. I can make it this. So it's always a matter of proving yourself to people. And I think for the organization, they're going to have to continue proving themselves to players to make it so where this is a place I want to come to. This is a place where I'll sacrifice play in Valencia or anywhere else. I'm going to skip your basket for you because I see this as a place that is important and a place to be. So you're always having to prove that over and over. So it's going to be an interesting challenge.
Agreed. I'm just catching up on other things, on hockey things here. Again, I reserve my final judgment on who they get next. Doesn't feel great, seems nonsensical, and maybe they'll find someone who I'm like, I was wrong, homie. It wouldn't be the first time. I know Damien is probably keeping a tally. Damien versus Erica on the leaderboard. I'm taking my L's. And that's okay, because again, we are, we call it how we see it. We try to keep it a buck here. Yeah. And my opinion is guided by how, and what I would do and what I want for this organization. That's, especially on the podcast, we are more opinion driven here. And that's what makes it fun. Also, I love that Damien is hilarious to me on so many levels, but y'all are all a witness. Damien said he wouldn't mind getting Sandy back, but you know what they say, don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone. Joni said it and Janet repeated it. Let's go. With a little Q-tip in between.
Never lied.
Joni Mitchell never lied. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone? I hope we're not over here playing Janet/Joni for the rest of the off season, but more so importantly in the next season, which will be the 30th season of the New York Liberty and the 30th season of the WNBA. Now, will it be in 2026? To be determined. You got to wait for Halloween. Spooky season is upon us. We got to wait till the 31st to find out, or around the 31st. But we wanted to hop on here. Listen, I didn't think it was happening, but that's sports, right? And so I guess we'll see. But stay tuned. Black Rosie Media is going to talk about the Noelle Quinn side of things on an episode likely going to be tomorrow at our usual time, which is 6:30 Pacific time. So that would be 9:30 Eastern. But stay tuned. We're just trying to get some scheduling things in order. But we're going to do our Ellie Wave for real now. Brian, before we get out of here, I know we have a newsletter that will be coming out later today, but I wanted to give you an opportunity. Anything that you have that you want to pump before we hop on out of here?
Yes, I did a newser on the Sandy story at Nets Daily. I've got a story coming out soon. One of our new writers at the local W was at a park refurbishment a few days ago. That story is going to be coming online soon. I'm going to be at the community center opening this Thursday that the Nets and Liberty are opening. I'm assuming that we're going to get Liberty players. So now I'm going to have to, I'll see what I can cook up there for you guys as far as video and things like that. So it's going to be exciting, and newsletter coming out soon. We've got a lot to uncover and a lot to work with today. So it's going to be exciting times. The playoffs are still here. We've got a lot of fascinating basketball to sort of like watch and talk about. So it's gonna be a wild ride. And then when Big Kathy and her city-themed dresses have a new championship, we will get to the real battle, which is the CBA. And buckle up, we got a lot to uncover over the next few months.
That's right. I wonder if there's an account that's Kathy Engelbert's wardrobe or something like that. Somebody out there probably got that, because people are gonna be clocking what she wears, and the like.
What is a good Minneapolis themed jersey she can find?
We're all purple. All purple with a symbol, with the Prince symbol and a guitar.
The artist formerly known as Kathy Engelbert.
Oh my gosh, that would be wild. As for me, have hockey stuff going on. Again, Tempestagi Talk will be up. We'll talk about the Noah Quinn side of things. But then also, I put it in the chat. I got to speak to Odyssey Sims, and I did a really fun play on her first name and her journey in the WNBA, which was a fun thing. And she said, I didn't put this in the article, but she owes me the story behind her name. It was funny. We spent Mall of America themed dress is wild. She's gonna wear what was it? What was the district that they played in? The Mighty Ducks. She's gonna wear like a Mighty Ducks something. Charlie Conway jersey. Oh my gosh. But back to Odyssey Sims, she says that I asked her, so like, do you know how you got your name? I love asking people that. I think it's so fun. You get some really cool stories. And she's like, listen, I'm gonna be honest. She's like, I've been asked this before, and it's come to her attention that her mom is like, I don't know why you telling people that, because that's not why you got your name. And so she's like, I'm gonna get back to you though. She's like, I'm gonna call my mama. I'm gonna talk to her. She's like, I won't forget. So I'm gonna talk to Odyssey Sims at some point again in these playoffs, and I'm gonna get the answer as to how she got her name, the real answer, mama approved answer. So, but definitely check out that article. It was a lot of fun chatting with her. And she's a journeywoman of the WNBA, really looking to make good on what would be, quite honestly, a magical run for this Indiana Fever team. And the narratives, ooh, child, listen, we're definitely going to talk about that.
I'll grab my microphone to say this. Carolyn Peck, the streets owe you an apology.
They do, because when she said that, for those who don't know, Carolyn Peck was like, listen, Indiana might look better without Caitlin Clark, and people came for her, dragged her. And when she said it, there was already statistical evidence to prove it. And I was like, I don't know why people are mad, because first Black woman to win an NCAA title, she around for a reason. Now she said some wild things too, Carolyn Peck. It was tough. It was tough watching. It was tough listening to her during that Liberty run, because, like some of the bias came out a little, or maybe I was just sensitive. It could be both. But either way, but definitely go check that out. We'll be back here on Black Rosie Media. And Griffin is nudging me, so that means it's time to go for a walk. Griff, I'm here. Say hi, Griffin. Say hi. He's like, just take me out. But we will catch you. All right, Aloysius, it's time for the Ellie wave for real. And I'm getting the paw. Wave. We'll catch y'all next time. Peace out, everybody.